The 2024 wide receiver class was damn near historic. And today we're going to break down all of the cases in order of Underdog ADP for the second-year wide receivers. There is a ton of these dudes going really high in drafts right now. And we're going to kind of break down, are we in? Are we out? At cost? Touch on a little bit of dynasty here and there as well. Danny, we can't waste any time here because we had one guy in the top 100 in the running back video. I think we have 7 or 8 in the top 100 of ADP in this wide receiver video. So let's kick it off with the guy who's going off the board first. That is wide receiver 5 off the board, 9.4 overall ADP on Underdog, Malik Nabers of the New York Giants. Currently set pick him for 7.5 receiving touchdowns, 1174 and a half through the air. Dude's a beast, man. Everybody knows I love Malik Nabers. I'll let you take it away with the case for him.
And unfortunately, I mean, if this guy didn't get hurt at all, he would have been the single biggest league winner in that spot. I mean, a rookie wide receiver doing what he was doing, over 1,100 receiving yards, the target share alone. I mean, 11.33 targets per game, a 32.2% target share as a rookie. That not only led the recent rookie group we've seen in the past, 32.2% target share literally led the NFL. So I understand, okay, maybe this year, the team's a little bit better. Maybe, we see targets distributed a little bit more evenly. What's more likely is the cream rises to the top, the year 2 wide receiver takes another step up. And with improved quarterback play, maybe, from a touchdown equity perspective, from an overall, just he's insane and now gets a better quarterback perspective, can threaten for that wide receiver 1 overall spot.
Yeah, man, it's hard to basically say anything other than this guy has wide receiver 1 overall in his range of outcomes, even despite the fact that he doesn't play for a good team. Because when you're pacing 193 targets your rookie season, because he only played 15 games and he had 170 in those 15, it's pretty hard to not get there, especially in PPR leagues, man. Like, you want an anchor at the end of your first round to go and, you feel like you can get a Devon Achane, a Genti, a McCaffrey, a Henry in the second round. You can't really go wrong with Malik Nabers. Like, he is my current, I believe I have him as my 9th overall player right now. And it's hard not to put him higher than this, honestly. Like, the only thing holding the guy back is that he has Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart throwing him the football. Because if he was on a team with a better quarterback, you could argue he should be 101 off the board.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. If he had a better offensive situation, obviously, I think Russell Wilson's going to be an upgrade. But, I mean, it's not like you have a Joe Burrow there, a Dak Prescott there, a Matthew Stafford there, even a J.J. McCarthy there. Again, I do like Russell Wilson. I do think it's going to give him an upgrade. But upgrade, we're talking, instead of being a bottom 5 level projectable offense, maybe they're in that, slightly below average, like 17 to 25 range is about the projection.
Yeah, the nice thing about the Giants is that they threw the ball quite a bit, and they also are a pretty up-tempo offense. So at the very least, you're not getting slow pace, not a lot of pass volume, because that would definitely be a problem for Malik Nabers. But generally, it's the same cast of characters he was competing for last year. It's Wandale, it's Hyatt, it's Darius Slayton, it's Theo Johnson. The running back position is really the only one that they added to with Cam Scatterbo in the draft. But yeah, the upgrade at quarterback, not having Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock throwing you the football half the year, definitely really helps you out. And like, even if you pull splits of him with those quarterbacks, he's still a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, wide receiver 6 overall in the season. And I've brought this up before, but you think about like what we're going to talk about with like Marvin Harrison and your wide receivers sometimes take time to develop and stuff. Dude, the guy couldn't drink legally during training camp last year, and he posted this dominant of a season. Like, after 1 year, you can argue he was as impressive as a rookie as Odell Beckham Jr. was as a New York Giant.
Yeah, I mean, I would favor Odell because the touchdown equity that he had as a rookie, as well as just outproducing him on a per target basis, does have to matter. But I mean, we saw Odell Beckham Jr. legitimately give high end wide receiver 1 production, and I wouldn't say they were bad offensive situations, but it wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire. It wasn't like he was part of the 2015 Denver Broncos. It wasn't like he's part of, the 2016 Atlanta Falcons, all these high powered offenses in the 2010s. It's like, the Giants were always like a middle of the pack level offense that would just get hot and catch fire in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. A wild stat, having 44 uncatchable targets is pretty insane. Like, if you look at like Puka Nacua, the guy going directly at, like ahead of him, he didn't have nearly that amount of uncatchable targets given like the role that he has in his offense. So again, we could glaze Malik Nabers all day. I'm pretty sure you guys know that he's an absolute stud. I guess the question people probably have is like, how high would you draft this guy? I heard he kind of gave you the answer. I have him like 8th, 9th overall player, depending on, full PPR settings and how, are you going to get a running back on the way back and that kind of thing. Like there's going to be leagues where you can get him in the second round because people are scared of the Giants offense for sure.
I have a very flat tier right now, and I've mentioned this before. So full transparency, we've actually both made this determination. We've recently both put Puka Nacua as our wide receiver 3 in fantasy this year inside of that top 6 elite tier that we've mentioned before. So now that tier actually extends to 7. However, 8 through 13 would be that next tier, that tier 2 of fantasy assets for me this year, because Nabers is in a less than ideal offense compared to some of those other top options. Again, Jefferson having that tether of a Kevin O'Connell plus being the best wide receiver in the league. Puka being attached to Matthew Stafford plus the Rams offense. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase with Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow in those 2 offenses respectively. I do think he needs to be your tier after those guys. However, that 8 to 13 range for me is so close. I mean, McCaffrey, Collins, Devon Achane, Malik Nabers, Ashton Genty, and then Brian Thomas Jr. leveling that off. If you wanted to take Nabers at 8th overall, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, which is where I have him ranked in full PPR. So yeah, let's talk about BTJ. His former college teammate, who you just mentioned, is at the tail end of that tier for you. He is actually the start, him and Drake London, of the next tier for me, because I do have Nabers, Achane, Genty, McCaffrey, and St. Brown in that 8 to 12 tier. So that's just kind of how we differ on our own personal rankings. But BTJ, man, 16.7 PPR points per game, wide receiver 11 overall finish. He's expected to have about 1,150 receiving yards, just a little bit less than what Nabers is projected for. And at 21 years old last year, he was 3rd in the NFL in receiving yards and 8th in the NFL among wide receivers with a 2.55 yards per route run.
And we talked about this, but it was the funniest stat that I saw on Twitter today was that he had 1,282 receiving yards, we just said. Only 93 of them came in the first quarter. And as we'll talk about in a second, when you isolate his stats week 10 on, you're getting a whole different perspective. Again, wide receiver 11, 16.7 points per game. Like, that's a very, very strong rookie season. When you contextualize, he was just straight up one of the best receivers in the NFL week 10 on. That's where it gets even crazier.
Yeah, 19.25 PPR points per game week 10 on. Both of us believe in Travis Hunter. We think he'll be a factor in this offense. But as I'm sure you'll point out, you've talked about this on numerous occasions, what else do they throw into other than these 2 guys? Like the Hunter and BTJ combined, between the deeper areas of the field, the red zone where BTJ is going to operate, the shorter areas of the field, the gadget touches, the over the middle chain moving stuff that Hunter should probably operate as. These guys can combine for a 55 to 60% target share in the offense. Like De'Ami Brown, Brenton Strange, the running backs are going to get some work, but it's not going to be really outside of these 2 guys.
What's stopping these guys genuinely? And maybe the answer is very straightforward. Trevor Lawrence, if you guys don't believe in Trevor Lawrence, but we both believe that Trevor Lawrence, there's more talent, there's more meat left on the bone. Working with Cone, we should see his best season in the NFL. We both have him ranked aggressively according to that theory. What's stopping if Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback we both expecting him to be? 3,000 combined yards in the next 2 years between Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. Not just like, 3,000 between both of them in the next 2 years. More so like in one of the next 2 years, they will combine for 3,000 receiving yards, that duo.
Yeah, like maybe BTJ has 1,600 and Travis has 1,400 this year.
Exactly.
Like it could legitimately be that concentrated of a situation. Like, let's not forget that BTJ did this with Mac Jones most of the time at the end of the year. And you might look at that and be like, oh, he didn't do it with Trevor. It's like, it was just a young player getting better. He
it's
just
an exponential growth.
Mac Jones as the quarterback at the time.
And that is my biggest pet peeve with some people. They look at splits the complete wrong way. Like, no, the split isn't, he better with Mac Jones. It's, a raw rookie wide receiver week 10 on just got exponentially better. Like, people just look at splits the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's pretty nice. If you're in a home league or whatever, and you feel a little bit more confident grabbing a running back in the first round at the tail end, like I don't think you can go wrong taking an Achane, a Genty, a McCaffrey, even Derrick Henry in like half PPR or whatever, knowing full well that you can probably get BTJ in the second round to be able to round out your first 2 picks. That's how I like playing BTJ. I personally would not take him in the first round. I would like him in the second round, even in half PPR, full PPR, whatever your scoring settings are. But the dude's an absolute animal, man. Like, he's an absolute beast. Yeah. And Lawrence, at the very least, is an average NFL starting quarterback. Yeah. Like, he's Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff type of quarterback at the worst case scenario. And if Hunter takes a step, obviously improves this offense. Lawrence takes a step. Cohn is the type of coordinator we think he can be. this could be the breakout unit of 2025 for sure.
Well, let me ask you, based off what we've seen from Trevor Lawrence in the past and baking in the fact that he's going to be healthy and he'll play with Liam Cohen, if he plays a full 17 games, like what's the floor of his passing projection? Like 4,200 yards and 25 touchdowns?
Yeah, I would say about 4,200-ish yards. I wouldn't say it's his floor because, I mean, he also has dealt with injuries and that kind of thing.
Like if he played a full 17 healthy is what I indicated.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely should pass for 4,000 yards. Like we both believe that Hunter, you don't spend the second pick and trade up all what they traded up for him to play him like part-time on offense and give him 700 yards. Which
if you're watching this right now, again, this is centered around BTJ, but also Travis Hunter's week 1 receiving pick'em just came out, 43.5 yards. If you're a fan of FSC, you're taking the higher on that.
Yeah, not to mention, too, if you're lower on Travis Hunter, you should probably have BTJ ranked in the first round.
You should. Like, straight up. If you do not have Travis Hunter as a top 45 or so, 50 or so valuation in your rankings, BTJ needs to be like 8th, 9th, or 10th overall.
Yeah, or you just think the Jags will be an utter tire fire this year, which I just don't think is going to be the case. And I
were last year, and he 19.2 points per game.
Yeah, especially like there's people out there that'll go, oh, the Jags aren't going to be very good this year, but then in the same token are also fading the Bucs for losing Liam Cohen. It's like, well, one thing is related. So if Cohen's a great coach, then he's probably going to make the Jags better.
Hey, a term that we love using around here. You got to be congruent in your arguments, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Liam Cohen will help the rushing game specifically with Jacksonville, the offensive line specifically for Jacksonville, and that was the biggest issue with the offense last year. And I do think BTJ is going to benefit from that. The next guy up on the list, you can argue legitimately, maybe has the best route running ability of these top receivers. Like you look at his reception perception numbers, 98th percentile against press coverage, Lad McConkey was 83rd percentile against man, 78th percentile against zone. Like his chart is all green, man. He, as a prospect, you and I both were like, okay, yes, the profile isn't excellent. There's holes in it, but you could piecemeal it together and be like, dude, this tape is so good. And the key efficiency indicators are there, the yards per route run, the targets per route run, stuff like that. So when you come out as a good prospect who was more of a film guy than an analytics guy and post a wide receiver 16 in PPR points per game as a rookie, and you're slated to be the number 1 receiver for one of the best 5 to 7 quarterbacks on the planet, it's pretty nice. And I've actually pointed to this too. We all assume that the Chargers are going to just run and run some more. There's been buzz. I've seen Mike Clay's projections. I've seen beat reporters say this, that they might actually be a little bit more of a balanced offense.
Yeah, and part of it, so weeks 1 to 7, we saw that the Chargers were 31st in pass rate over expectation. We point to the fact that, hey, maybe when your wide receiver one's first 7 games in the NFL come in that stretch, and your quarterback is dealing with a preseason ankle sprain in that stretch, it could skew your passing numbers. Because week 8 on, McConkey, 19.2 PPR points per game in their biggest game of the year, 9 for 197 and a touchdown against Houston in that wild card game. And like you said, like, what if Herbert is healthy coming into the season? What if McConkey does merit more passing volume for this offense because he's ready to handle that wide receiver 1 duty? Keep in mind, in that weeks 1 to 7 stretch, like I said, literally his first 7 games of his NFL career. So that goes to show, like, when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, do we really expect him to be the second run heaviest team in the NFL yet again?
No, I don't think they will be. And it's the tough thing about McConkey that it annoys me more than anything. It's nothing against him. I kind of wish he was cheaper. It really has nothing to do with, like, people are wise to what he did as a rookie. And
I think it's reasonable cost.
I don't think he's overpriced, but I kind of wish like it was 2021 and this exact profile happened again, because he'd be a late 3rd round pick.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if full transparency, so his ADP 18.6, I believe it was.
It's 20 overall on Sleeper too. So you're not even getting a discount in home leagues.
So I have him actually exactly ranked at 18th overall. And that's with me feeling like I'm like pretty high on him. So the market is wise. The market knows what they're getting with Lad McConkey. And if you want to bet on that year 2 breakout, it is completely baked in at this point. It's not like you said, you're getting it in the 30s. Like, it's almost eerily similar to the Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson range. Except I will say, I think the profile for McConkey does outweigh those guys because of his attachment to the Chargers offense.
Yeah, as a prospect, athletically, and a lot of other factors, he was very, very comparable to Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. In the rookie season, too, very comparable to what those guys did. as rookies, except like you said, we have Justin Herbert here. And if it is a balanced offense instead of just a pure, like I think he's being priced here with the assumption the Chargers throw 510 times or something, like bottom 5, bottom 10 in the NFL in pass volume. And it's possible that they're more about league average in that area.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. McConkey showed that he is already a star level player. Like straight up, he had superstar moments. Like you don't go out there as a rookie round 2 pick and put up 9 for 197 and a touchdown in your first playoff game unless you got the goods.
Yeah, with these 3 guys, Nabers goes at 9.4. I have him at 8. Brian Thomas, where does he go? He goes at 13.2. I have him at 14. And Ladd McConkey goes at 18.6. I have him at 19. So I'm pretty much right in line exactly with where they're all going, except for Nabers, who I guess I'm slightly bullish on. I would say that all 3 of these guys, first of all 3 of them are inside my top 12 wide receivers, inside my top 11 wide receivers.
Inside my top 10.
Yeah, so they're all absolute beasts, man. This was an excellent wide receiver class, and the crown jewel of it, actually, we haven't talked about yet. And we're about to talk about them. So, yeah, all 3 of these guys, you should feel confident in your wide receiver 1 being locked down by them. Like, would you feel confident, just by the way, let's say you took Bijan in the first round and Ladd fell to you at like 20 or something. Would you feel confident with Ladd as your wide receiver 1?
So we actually talked about this off camera. He's part of a tier that of one of the last guys I would feel fine with as my wide receiver 1. The way I kind of have it right now, my top of the top cream of the crop, the guys that I think are the best bets to be the wide receiver 1 overall are Chase and CeeDee Lamb. Right after that, Puka Nacua and Justin Jefferson. That would be your elite 4, I would say. Although I do prefer Chase and Lamb. Like, there's not going to be many drafts. I draft Puka and Jefferson over those 2, so I do have that slight mini tier between them.
I have a mini tier of them as well.
Yeah, okay, so you're on the same page there. Then it would be like Nico, Malik, BTJ, Amon-Ra. I'd be ecstatic to have as my wide receiver 1. The next range would be London, McConkey, AJ Brown, and Rashee Rice. I would be cool if they were my wide receiver 1, assuming I grab the bell cow with them.
Yeah, the only difference for me is that I actually have Nabers in the tier with Puka and Jefferson. I have him at 5, but he is in the tier with those guys because I think just pure target volume, the guy could legit have 195 targets.
And the difference for me, obviously, again, we've talked about this so many times, but where we rank Nico Collins is the biggest difference in both of our rankings for those of you that are watching out there. But I'm assuming you guys already knew that. We can head on to Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, we're pretty much in lockstep that this guy deserves to be in that mid-range wide receiver 2 area. I'm here at wide receiver 50, and I believe you said you're at, 18 or 19?
I am at 14. I moved him up. And part of why I moved him up is because some of the profiles are varying in that area. Like the tier that I have of wide receivers is a couple of old guys, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, those type of dudes.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of guys that kind of all have their own host of issues, but are all like younger ascending players, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison himself, JSN, and Rashee Rice. And then T. Higgins is the only guy that's kind of halfway in between both of those profiles. So I would say the reason I love Harrison so much, or I'm starting to warm up on Harrison a little bit more, I would say 949.5 receiving yard projection. He was outscored by Quentin Johnston last year, so we can start with that. As a rookie, he was outscored by QJ. But after reading Matt Harmon's write-up on him, Matt Harmon comped his rookie season to CeeDee Lamb. And he said, I personally am high on this Cardinals offense. I think that things are starting to align, that Kyler can bounce back. He's now 3 years removed from his injury. The young play caller, Drew Petzig, is getting real head coaching buzz. And I think he's going to get even more creative, specifically with how they deploy Marvin Harrison Jr. alignment-wise, move him into the slot a little bit more. The young offensive line, they drafted Paris Johnson, a couple of guys. It's starting to have a little bit more continuity. Hopefully it can gel together. Most importantly, though, I think Marvin Harrison will just get a lot better this year. He's bulked up a little bit. He was the type of prospect who was not going to win in the same way that Nabers, BTJ, and Ladd were going to win. All 3 of those receivers are 4.3 speed guys. Marvin Harrison is not. So he needs to win like CeeDee Lamb, who's a 4.51 guy, like Devontae Adams, who's a late 4.5s guy, like a Michael Thomas or somebody like that, where he needs to win with his nuance, with his brain, with his size, his power, and stuff like that. I really do think he's going to put it all together this year. I'm warming up to that more and more. And when you look at his bad rookie season or suboptimal rookie season, 75th percentile separating against man coverage, 72nd against zone coverage, 80th percentile against press coverage. And I do think the zone coverage aspect of it all is the thing that he's going to really start to make his money on, because think about how his dad won at the NFL level. He's going to be, I have no doubt in my mind that Harrison's going to prepare the right way to get better as a player. That's part of why I'm warming up on the projection. And also too, I just like the Cardinals offense as a sneaky value this year.
So you don't have Marvin Harrison, the junior stat line on you right now, do you? You're not going to look?
No, I think it was like 909 or something like that.
Don't look at it, because I will read you 3 stat lines, and I want you to guess who belongs to 2 out of 3 players. Okay, you ready? First stat line: 118 targets, 64 receptions, 836 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns.
Okay.
Can you hear that? Second receiving line: 116 targets, 62 receptions, 885 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Okay.
I know one of these is QJ for sure.
And then the third, 111 targets, 74 receptions, 935 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. Can you guess who those 3 players are and which one is which?
I think Harrison was the middle one.
Marvin Harrison Jr. was the middle one.
Is QJ the first one? No? I thought QJ had 8 touchdowns and 800 yards. That's why I asked if it was him.
Close. Not close in terms of player, but close in terms of like stat line. Marvin Harrison Sr. Was the first name that I mentioned. Okay. And the third name that I mentioned was actually just CeeDee Lamb. So it goes to show you, you could be a really damn good receiver in the league, even if you have less than 1,000 receiving yards in year 1.
Yeah, no, exactly. Again, I think that Harrison should be able to take the step forward. I've been up and down yo-yoing my opinion on Harrison all offseason, honestly, because there isn't a whole lot to point to that says this is a future superstar, other than the fact that he was as decorative a prospect as he was, a top 5 pick, a league winner prospect in the FSC model. And from a ball knowledge standpoint, he was not going to be the type of receiver who probably got out to an excellent start to his career based on how he needed to win. If you think of the way Adams and Lamb developed slowly in year 2 and year 3 and beyond, they started to become superstars. I think we could see that out of Harrison going forward.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that will be the case. Obviously, the percentiles, like you said, as a separator, do point to him being better in year 2. If he can take that step, we saw CeeDee Lamb take. Like, if you actually see the charting process from year 1 to year 2 of CeeDee Lamb, like everybody and their mother was saying, year 3, this guy's going to be one of the 3 to 5 best receivers in fantasy. So, kind of goes to show you, like, if he can just continue getting better and getting better. Again, not saying he's going to be at his peak this upcoming year, but I definitely do think he could be even potentially 85% of it. If he's 85% of what we thought his peak was coming as a prospect, that'd be well worth a 3rd round pick.
Well, and Lamb was what, wide receiver 7 as a 2nd-year player, something like that?
Something like that, 1,100 yards, I think, like 8 touchdowns.
I think that's probably, like, anybody who thinks that Harrison's going to go for 1,613 touchdowns, it's probably not going to happen, but I do see he went 1,106, and he was wide receiver 18 in points per game, but he still had some higher level target competition than maybe what Harrison's going to be dealing with. I do think Lamb's 3rd season of 17.7 points per game, number 7 overall wide receiver, I think that's probably towards the upper range of outcomes for Marvin Harrison this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, CeeDee Lamb, he's like the notorious 3rd-year breakout at this point, because like people thought, okay, the prospect profile was there. Obviously, he didn't go as high as Marvin Harrison Jr. went, but everybody like said at the time in 2020, well, CeeDee Lamb fell to 17. Like,
yeah, he could have went as high as like, the Raiders
8th overall.
Yeah.
Well, there was buzz because obviously he was teammates with Kyler in college. There was buzz at 8th overall. I remember the Cardinals were rumored to take him, but they ended up going with Isaiah Simmons. Now, if you ask Kyler back nowadays, maybe he would have reverted that.
Yeah, he probably wants that pick back. But anyways, those are the top guys. Again, I have Harrison at 14. Where do you have Harrison again?
15th overall. So okay, I guess the difference there would be Adams, because I have Adams at 14.
Yes, Adams is the difference there between the two of us. And I have Wilson ahead of both of those guys too. So Garrett, after the big contract extension, the fact that he played with Fields in college, I feel pretty good about him. Similar to Nabers, I think he can 170 target his way all the way to a top 12 receiver kind of thing.
I actually have him the last of this year. I've met 18th. So goes to show you, hey, whether you prefer T. Higgins, whether you prefer Garrett Wilson, or anybody in between there, 13 to 18 is pretty close for me.
Yeah, these are all solid 3rd-round wide receivers, and Harrison's the same type of guy. Ideally, he's your wide receiver 2, maybe even your wide receiver 3 if you start 3 straight wide receivers in a 3 wide receiver start type of league. Harrison being your 3 would feel really, really nice if you started your draft with like Puka and BTJ or something like that. But anyways, let's move on to Xavier Worthy, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. We're getting into kind of more of the mid rounds. Those guys were all going the top 3 rounds. Worthy about a 4th round pick, give or take. Worthy's higher or lower, 6.5 receiving touchdowns, 1.5 rushing touchdowns, 849.5 receiving yards. So they're projecting him basically around 8 touchdowns, 850, which is basically what we just said Harrison did last year, and some of the other receivers that we talked about there. Kansas City, I think one of the most underrated parts about Kansas City, it's super weird saying underrated in Kansas City in the same sentence, but they're like one of the fastest paced offenses and one of the most pass heavy offenses in football. And it doesn't feel like it because they haven't been like overly fantasy bonanza-y for wide receivers lately because, Worthy was a rookie last year. Rice went down for the season. Hollywood wasn't playing pretty much the entire year. When you look at what Worthy and Rice and Hollywood and Kelsey moving the chains can do for Patrick Mahomes' passing volume and passing ceiling this year, I do think we might be in store for a Mahomes bounce back. Since the Baker Mayfield, Tristan Wirfs news, I moved Mahomes to QB6. The last 8 games of Xavier Worthy's rookie season rivals his teammates very closely and Rashee Rice of his rookie season. 23% target share, give or take. The catches, the yards. Matters. The big plays. Of course, the context matters, but you can make the argument that Rice had nobody to compete with for targets with. Worthy had nobody to compete for targets with.
It's not even just that. It's more so the role that Worthy thrived in down the stretch. We anticipate Rice to occupy because it actually is proven that I believe it was Fantasy Pros that did this study, but the weeks 1 to 12 area, Worthy was at a 12.1 ADOT. Actually, in those weeks 13 to 17 range, once we saw the production like constantly pile up, 6.1 ADOT. So I am curious. Again, don't get me wrong. I actually love both these receivers. I'm all in on this offense because I'm actually more anti-Kelsey than anti any of these top 2 wide receivers. I have both these receivers ranked higher than you do.
Yeah, I have them at. So here's my thing with this offense and these receivers. I think that both of them can play the Rashee Rice role, honestly. I think that this offense operates beating zone coverage, taking what's there, because you know what? Every defensive coordinator on planet Earth is scared of Xavier Worthy's speed and Patrick Mahomes' arm. So I think that what they're going to do is operate Hollywood Brown almost as like a sacrificial X because he can also stretch the field as well and use Worthy in the slot, up the seam, and Rice is clearing out too. Like, I think both of these guys can play, quote unquote, the Rashee Rice role.
Now, obviously, Rashee Rice is better at the Rashee Rice role. I mean, he was 99th percentile against zone once he was in that role this year.
He was on a 3-game sample size and all
11 games total. Yeah, sure. I mean, hey, if all he's going to run is slants and he's going to be a 20-point per game receiver, I'll take that, man. Honestly, I'm just bullish on this passing game as a whole. The running backs are the cheapest they've ever been. If you look on the underdog market and you see Isaiah Pacheco as your RB1 off the board with like a 70 or 80 pick ADP, wherever he goes, 83 point something, I think is his ADP.
Isaiah Pacheco goes off the board right now at 76.1.
Okay,
and
so
that's actually
it rose
on the rise. So he was in the mid 80s before.
You're getting the Chiefs RB1 for an offense we project to be at worst, even if you're pessimistic, a top 10 unit. Obviously, the upside is there with Mahomes, top 3 to 5 unit in the NFL. But even if you're pessimistic, let's say they're not what they were at their peak, they're a top 10 unit in the NFL. Okay, cool. Like you said, second most projected pass attempts. We know Patrick Mahomes is going to give you a safe floor in terms of the ultimate passing game projection. And on top of that, both these young wide receivers can eat based off what we saw from Kelsey last year. If Kelsey takes another step down, why can't this offense funnel? Hey, listen, some snaps we're going to have Worthy in the slot. We're going to run with some quick yak game. Some snaps we're going to have Rashee Rice in the slot. We're going to run with this power yak game. Realistically, both these guys thrive in yak, but in different ways. When you need to move the chains and you're on 3rd down, Rice is going to be in your slot and he's going to get you 3rd down and 7s like nothing. If you're on 1st down and 10, maybe you have a play action out of the slot. Xavier Worthy's busting down a deep post route. He's going to catch a 60-yard bomb on you.
Yeah, I guess my opinion ultimately comes down to this because I am lower than the wide receiver 12, 23 overall ADP that Rashee Rice has on the market right now. And it's really not that much to do with Rashee Rice as much as, it is because I'm not a huge fan of Rashee Rice's game, but I have the gap a lot closer between these two. It's wide receiver 19 and 25 as opposed to wide receiver 12 and 24, like the ADP suggests right now.
I have them wide receiver 12 and 22 right now.
Okay, so you're in line with ADP on Rice, and then you're also above average on Xavier Worthy.
Lower on Kelsey.
Yeah, I have Kelsey still as my tight end 6, so I just tend to think that these 3 guys are going to be the majority of the offense in the passing game. Either way you slice it, Worthy is going to have mismatch opportunities, whether it is those deep ball, bombs that he could catch and give you spike weeks, both in best ball frame of mind and also just in managed leagues and a flex position or whatever. But also, too, I do think they are going to use him kind of interchangeably with Rice in the Rashee Rice role.
You want to hear the most beautiful part, though?
What?
What about when they both eat because Mahomes gets back to 45 touchdowns and 5,000 yards?
Well, yeah, that's the ultimate ceiling too. Is like you could make the argument that everything that could have went wrong for the Chiefs last year did. Their O-line suffered some injuries. Both, like Pacheco was out for the year pretty much. Hollywood didn't play a single game. Rashee Rice only played 4. Worthy didn't really start playing well until like week 10, week 11. So if everybody's kind of humming at all cylinders and, Kelsey's going to be motivated, probably trying to win a Super Bowl in his potential last season, that kind of thing. I seriously don't see how the Chiefs don't bounce back here. It really sucks to have been so in on the Chiefs last year and everything went wrong. It makes me not want to go back to the well on them. But I feel like they're going to screw me twice if I'm not in on them this year.
Fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you.
Yeah, I seemingly if they're bad again this year, I'm never in on the Chiefs ever again, apparently. But the way that they get played by opposing defenses, soft zone coverage, Mahomes picks you apart. Both Rice and Worthy are going to eat against that. And when they don't do that, Worthy's going to be the one that makes them pay most of the time. So that's why I'm really excited about him. Yeah. And I think he had a really underrated rookie season, to be honest.
Yeah. And again, I think the volume alone is why I'm so willing to be optimistic on both these guys, on top of the fact, of course, I'm taking a slight stance against Kelsey. You mentioned you have him at tight end 6. I have him at tight end 10. So that's kind of how we get to the difference there. Hey, listen, the difference between tight end 6 to 10 is the difference between me having Rice at 12 versus you 19 and me having Worthy at 22 versus you at 25.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk about Odunze, who was a top 10 pick in last year's class at the wide receiver position. And similar to Marv, I would say you could have maybe prognosticated before the season started that Odunze may not have started out as hot as, Nabers and those type of guys, because he also, he doesn't have no speed, but he wasn't a burner. He wasn't the type of guy.
He's an X.
He's an X. He was an X receiver, 71st percentile win rate against man coverage, 52nd against zone, I think is probably where he fell short in terms of overall targets and receiving yards and that kind of stuff. But 87th percentile against press. I think the number one thing here is that we all just feel so much better about the situation now, where you don't have a rookie quarterback anymore. You yourself are not a rookie anymore. You have Ben Johnson instead of Matt Eberflus as your head coach, and
Shane Waldron is gone.
Waldron calling the plays, and who's Thomas
Brown,
Davis, but that's
Thomas Brown, former running back. Funny story about that. Because everybody can say, well, Rome Odunze, he had a down rookie year. You guys loved him last year. It's like, who the fuck didn't have a down year in that Bears offense last year? Realistically, Caleb had a down year. DJ Moore had a down year. But he by his efficiency was definitely a down year. Whole offense underperformed based on their status quo, based on their expectation. And the easy solution is, guess what? Shane Waldron ain't very good at his job. You know who is good at his job? Ben Johnson.
Yeah, not to mention, you and I are not high on DJ Moore. And if we're not high on DJ Moore, we got to be putting our eggs into the Odunze, Burden, and Loveland basket, which is what we're doing pretty much. The other thing, too, is PFF. Do you care to guess where they ranked the Bears offensive line going into the year? This year?
Going into this year. So last year was probably bottom 3. This year, I would honestly make a wager, given how they've patched up the interior. It was probably 9th, honestly.
It's 4th.
Wow. Okay. So even higher than
I'm not saying that that's the be all end all of everything, but it should go to show that they were a really bad offensive line last year. They add former all pro type of talents and best available free agents, and now they're in much better shape.
Hey, guess what? As long as it's not a complete weakness, that's all we care about. Whether it's the 4th or the 14th offensive line, it's not going to be 29th.
Yeah, and what is it? Fantasy points has them at 15th. So if you split the difference there, they're about a top 7 to 10 offensive line, give or take. Especially in the interior, that's where Caleb was getting a lot of that quick pressure from, and it was really disrupting this offense overall. And Odunze is a big A-dot, go up and get it type of receiver. He was recently on with Matt Harmon talking about how they want to use different alignments and all this kind of stuff. And I think Odunze specifically would benefit a lot from that, because he can play prototypical X receiver 100% of the time, but does he need to be doing that?
He could play some big slot. He showed yards after catch game. On top of that, it's funny that you pointed out that his worst trait or his worst metric this year was a 52nd percentile against zone. Because, like we said, 71st against man, 87th against press. Absolutely what you want to see from a young X wide receiver. Like, those are like George Pickens numbers, to be honest. And George Pickens obviously now goes to a situation we like. Anyways, 52nd percentile against zone. He actually hopped on with Matt and talked about like the complexities in their scheme with how Caleb wanted to throw against zone. And when you have two rookies that have to deal with nonsense with Shane Waldron throughout the training camp, don't really feel confident, don't really develop the right way, it's like, how are you going to get those timings down? How are you going to get, hey, listen, when you're facing this type of zone, I actually want you to drift a little further upfield or drift a little bit further. Like, those little things, those little timings you build with repetition. Well, if Shane Waldron's not managing the offense the way we want to, whereas Ben Johnson, by all accounts, sounds like he's dialed in. Rome Odunze talked about the attention to detail and everything that they're doing. That seems like an issue that will correct itself inherently.
Everybody's had a boss where you like kind of don't believe jack shit of what they're saying. Like, I remember when I used to detail cars, the owner of the dealership used to come around and tell me how to do my job. And I'm like,
roll your eyes and
I'm like, you own the dealership. You don't detail cars. Yeah. It's like, you don't have to, I know what I'm doing. You don't have to tell me how to do my job. And I feel like when Shane Waldron's your boss, quote unquote, telling you how to do your job, there's just an inherent lack of trust there with what he thinks is the right thing to do. When Ben Johnson's telling you what to do, you're probably going to listen a lot more intently than when Shane Waldron's telling you what to do.
Dude, Rome Odunze's listening to Jackson Smith and Jigba freezing on the mic, trying to think of positive things to say about Shane Waldron. Probably looking at that like, how the fuck is this guy going to develop me?
Yeah, no, he's just a complete bum of a coach, Shane Waldron. So yeah, even if Ben Johnson doesn't replicate the success of an offense that Detroit was for the last couple of years, and there's a little bit of growing pains or whatever, we all know it's going to be a whole hell of a lot better than it was last year for the Chicago Bears. Even like you said, if it's a marginal improvement, the fact that it's not a rookie quarterback throwing a rookie wide receiver anymore is going to be also probably a major upgrade for this offense, as are the offensive line upgrades.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, I mean, we've talked about how the vibes are off for DJ Moore. I mean, Ben Johnson's literally called him out in press conferences, talking about the lack of effort. DJ Moore's talking about how he doesn't expect to touch the football as much this year.
Could still get dealt, by the way.
Could still get dealt. Like, a lot of smoke there. On top of that, I mean, hey, dude, I think Burden and Loveland are studs, but guess what? They're both rookies that missed significant time this offseason. Loveland coming off of that shoulder injury. Burden, it was a lower body issue he was dealing with, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He's been dealing with a lower body thing. Here's the other thing. Rome Odunze's ADP is what on Underdog? 60.2. It's
85 on home leagues.
79 on Sleeper. Like, you can draft Rome Odunze in the 7th or 8th round on Sleeper after already drafting 4 wide receivers on your team and just going, yeah, this is a bench stash for my upside swing that I'm going to stash on my bench at the beginning of the year. Like, Odunze at that price tag is going to be, I guarantee you, once we get to the time of the season where we're talking about the biggest values on ESPN and Yahoo and Sleeper and stuff, Rome Odunze's name is going to come up pretty quickly because the Sharps are taking him about 20 picks higher than casual ADP is taking him right now.
Where do you have him ranked? I'm curious because he is currently for me at 62 overall, so 2 behind where the experts have him. But I'm comfortable, of course, if I have Bears exposure, building out my Rome Odunze teams on Underdog, even if I have him quote unquote 2 behind ADP.
So I have Rome Odunze right now I have him a little bit behind where he goes on Underdog, but it is kind of a little bit to do with the running backs that I do kind of like a little bit more than seemingly you do. Yeah. In this territory. And also, for some reason, Bo Nix got pushed up the board when I moved him ahead of Baker. So I got to move him down a little bit. So he's at 68 for me. So he's a little bit behind ADP, but I'm still well ahead of ADP in terms of home redraft leagues.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Regardless, though, young X wide receiver, offense we both believe in. Obviously, I believe in the offense a little bit more than you do, which is probably explaining a little bit of that discrepancy. But regardless, you would agree that he's fine at cost where he goes?
Yeah, I think he's fine. And again, like, he's in a tier with a bunch of guys like his teammate DeAndre Swift, for example. I have 1 spot ahead of him, and it's mainly just because I think that the running back position, when you're talking about a top 21 running back in my rankings versus my wide receiver 37, that's maybe just a little bit better of a click if you're taking a top 24 running back versus the top 40 wide receiver.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. But we'll move on to the next wide receiver in ADP. Very polarizing one for that matter, and that is Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. Wide receiver 41 off the board, 74.5 underdog ADP. And again, a very, very polarizing figure because you look at the status of that wide receiver core in San Fran. Ayuk still recovering from that knee tear. Now Juwan Jennings going out there requesting a trade or needing an extension before the season. Like, there is an opportunity where Pearsall, come day one, come week one, will be the wide receiver one for the San Francisco 49ers, but maybe the wide receiver one in what should be potentially the number 3 target earning situation, probably not as appealing as maybe the pro Pearsall people are saying.
Yeah, I think if you liked Pearsall, the prospect, you should probably like his price now. There's always a guy in this territory that we seemingly are not as high on because of like what we expect the talent to be. For example, Jameson Williams last year was this guy.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be out on Pearsall altogether, but I think he's going to be about a 4 to 6% type of guy for me, where I'll take him with my San Fran stacks. I'll take him when I'm correlating and that kind of thing. But for the most part, I do think 74.5 overall ADP. I would prefer to take a running back, quarterback, or tight end in that territory because I feel like I'm not wanting to go down into that next group of wide receivers before the Swifts, the Pachecos, and some of those guys are off the board. So it's not really anything against Pearsall at wide receiver 41 price tags. Like, let me just see where I have him ranked. I have him at wide receiver 44. So it's not like I'm super low on him relative to his cost. I just don't have him at 74.5 overall. Like in my rankings, he's at 85.
He's at 81 for me, 42nd overall at wide receiver. I do actually have him now a little bit ahead of Juwan Jennings, just if Jennings missed training camp. Although if Jennings does get a deal done, I will raise Jennings back over Pearsall because I do like what I saw last season. But regardless, I think Pearsall, he's a fine bet to make. After he got shot, quietly put together a decent season, had some flash weeks. I think week 17, there was a week against the Lions. Had that big time
game. I think week 18, he played well too.
Had that big time performance. But like I kind of alluded to, I do still think the upside is capped as the number 3 in the passing game because ultimately George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey are going to be top 3 players at their positions in receiving.
Yeah, Kittle's the way that you and I have been notoriously playing this offense through. McCaffrey, I'm not quite as high on as you are.
Just a receiving game, though. If he's healthy, he's going to be like an 800 receiving or receiver, probably.
For sure. The thing that I've been doing, which may be suboptimal to some people, is that in deeper formats, in formats where you can afford to eat a couple of weeks or formats that are back weighted to week 17 production like Underdog is, I have actually been taking Ayuk a decent amount because I just like what he represents week 8 to 10 onwards. But I understand that that's maybe a suboptimal way to play it because he probably won't be healthy and on the field until like week 4 or week 5.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I think the way that McCaffrey bounces back this year is because I don't think he's going to have, for example, 272 carries he had in 2023. I think it's going to look closer to the year he got traded to San Francisco, where we saw the usage down the stretch. Obviously, when you combine the whole season, got a ton of work before he got traded from Carolina. But specifically when he got traded to San Francisco, it wasn't like he was getting his most opportunities per game in his career. He was used efficiently. He was used in the receiving game, and he was scoring when he needed to. That year, 13 touchdowns in 17 games, running back 2 in fantasy. And again, it wasn't the legendary season he had in 2023, but that would be about the upside path I see for McCaffrey nowadays, specifically contributing more in the receiving game, especially with less than target competition now.
Yeah, like you said, it's probably unlikely we see that monster 2023 season. That the first year that he was with San Fran for half the season is probably more so in line with what they're going to do with him because they probably want to keep him healthy, ideally for a playoff run or whatever, if that's what they're thinking. I don't think it would be wise of the 49ers to put the ball in the belly of Christian for 400 times this season or whatever. Pearsall is interesting, man. I do think he's better in best ball. I think he's going to be a spike week guy. I think he might be a little bit of a headache from a managed league perspective because once Ayuk is back on the field and if Jennings is ready to go for the start of the season, I think the 49ers offense, the way I want to play it is Kittle's going to be an absolute beast and I'll take the pancakes or the syrup. Sorry, not the pancakes. And I Brock Purdy's a top 11 quarterback in fantasy this year.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable take. I have him right after that, but that's just specifically because the tier is close. I do have him at 15th overall, but honestly, like we've mentioned this before, Tell me the difference between like 7 through 16 right now.
No, there's not a huge difference. And the other
you did the study on it.
I did. No, there's no difference really. And
like,
the thing with Purdy too is that he ran for 350 and 5 last year on the ground, which was a huge upgrade as a runner. We don't know if that's going to stick. Maybe that was a McCaffrey thing or whatever being out, but just the fact that he showed that, it gives him a much higher ceiling than he used to have. And he's already been a guy who's been like an 18 and a half, 19 point per game scorer.
Yeah, a lot more as a creator we saw this past year, obviously, given the injuries of San Fran. I am curious, though. I mean, you get Trent Williams back, you get McCaffrey back, Kittle going to be fully healthy, potentially. Obviously, the wide receivers are still a question mark, but even if it's Pearsall and Jennings in day one, I feel confident, especially given the schedule, too. That's another thing, like very easy schedule for San Francisco this year. Going to be exciting. Pearsall, though, like we said, finite cost. Just don't be taking him over like Josh Downs and some running backs.
Yeah, that's pretty much where it comes down to why I don't pick them very often, as well as the tight ends that go there, and also the wide receivers and some of the running backs there. Keon Coleman is the next guy that we're going to talk about that we'll spend like meaningful time on, I would say, because there were so many receivers in this class that we might just have to rapid fire the last couple. Keon Coleman, 5.5 receiving touchdowns is a pretty high projection, in my opinion, 749.5 receiving yards. The reason he's being drafted this high, as is the case with any receiver who has a chance to be the number one for one of the best quarterbacks in the league, whether it was the year we took QJ super high or the year we took there was a year we took Sky Moore in the top 95 picks or whatever.
Don't remind me.
If you have a chance to be the number one for one of the best quarterbacks in the league, you're going to get elevated. And Keon Coleman was objectively not a great separator at all as a prospect, and objectively not a good separator at all as a rookie.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. The Bills just completely misused him. They said, hey, listen, you big, you catch pass, you go outside wide receiver. That was their rationale. Hey, he's big, he's got to be an X. Well, guess what? Keon Coleman, the X last year, 3rd percentile against man, 8th percentile against press. The one thing we kept stressing about his prospect profile is, hey, he's great at the catch point. He's great after the catch. Utilize that in the slot. Play him in the power slot role. Let him be that Michael Thomas type of trajectory. It's just the issue for Keon Coleman. He's the only big wide receiver outside of Josh Palmer on this team, and their most proven target earners win the best from the slot. Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, hell, even fucking Elijah Moore's coming over now is a predominant slot wide receiver. So I'm very concerned the Bills are just going to say, year one, let's chalk it up. Year two, you're 6'3", you can figure it out on the X spot, and he's not going to figure it out.
Yeah, what they need is a true X, man. If they traded for DJ Moore, for example.
Devontae Adams?
Yeah, or somebody of that realm. DJ would make a lot of sense because he can take away number one corners and stuff, and then you can start moving Keon around the formation a little bit because him and Shakir could interchangeably play Z or whatever. Right now, he's going to be typecast as an X receiver, and I don't think he's going to be very good as a result. So I have not been drafting him at all. Not a guy that I'm really targeting, especially where he goes. Like one of my favorite clicks in all of Underdog is Tyler Warren, who goes like right where he goes. Yeah. So I'm not going to be taking a whole lot of Keon. And if I want Bills receiver or pieces or whatever, I'm not taking Shakir really a whole lot either. The way I'm playing this receiver core is that Josh Allen spreads the ball out. So I'll take cheaper options. Ironically, I've been taking actually quite a bit of Dalton Kincaid in the 18th round, scroll the F down Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just because this guy's Canadian, but I swear every single draft I'm in, Palmer just falls like 15 picks after ADP. And I'm like, hey, shit, I may as well get some CLV on him because his ADP is like 158 and I'm getting him at 175. Like that's been the outside wide receiver I've been getting on the Bills because I feel like everybody and their mother is just fading Josh Palmer on the site. Until his ADP actually corrects itself, then I'm not going to be taking him as much. But every time I see him like 15 picks back to ADP, I feel almost obligated to take him.
Why isn't Amari Cooper re-signed here?
Yeah, like real talk. Now I'm curious. Now, like,
is he that bad? Like, is he that washed? That because like the Bills could very much use Amari Cooper.
Like, by the way, I got 3 shares of Palmer. All 3 of them were like 15 picks past ADP, but that's facts though. I mean, I guess like they don't like his temperament. They didn't like the fact that they traded an asset for him. He didn't really do much when he came over. Like I'm honestly not sure. And maybe the factor is like they just believe in their room because we see so many teams just content with average.
Yeah, I would be aggressive if I was them. And you think you're going to beat Kansas City in January with this receiver core? I just don't buy it. Unless again, this is why I'm actually starting to warm up on the urine king himself, Dalton Kincaid, because he actually might have the most ability of anyone in this receiver core, as crazy as that sounds.
How did they not throw a 2 at George Pickens, by the way?
I don't know. I don't know how they didn't throw a 2 at George Pickens. I don't know. I would have traded for DK Metcalf and slept like an absolute baby doing it.
Well, Pickens or Metcalf with Josh Allen in this situation goes for 1,215 touchdowns.
DK would have been a perfect fit for this offense, man. A perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens as well. It just goes to show you, fucking Keon Coleman is not an X, and he is going to be miscast as an X.
Go trade for DJ. DJ's the last one that's probably available. Xavier Legette is the next guy that we got to talk about here. He's kind of verging into the late round territory because he's like a fringe top 150 pick here. Wide receiver 64 off the board, and Jalen Coker, who also is a part of this receiver core as a second-year wide receiver, is wide receiver 85 off the board, 210.2 underdog ADP. I think both of us can get this out of the way right away. Coker's the better pick at value. Yeah. When you're talking about an 18th rounder versus a 14th rounder, 13th rounder, like Coker was objectively the better receiver as a rookie.
Yeah, and I don't think it's particularly close. Now, I will say, obviously, with Legette, he had the better prospect profile. He's a guy that we did like. It's not like I'm not,
by the way.
I mean, like he was a top 10 receiver for us. We definitely liked Legette.
We did. But like I had Coker like wide receiver 12. Yeah. Even though he went undrafted, he was actually pretty close.
Yeah, like I have these guys. I have 12.5% Coker right now. I have about 8% Legette. Specifically, I think this offense is going to be a big time improvement. I think for the most part, Bryce Young's going to take that next step. Canales, second year working with this offense, going to take a next step in terms of the scheme, and ultimately getting a big X wide receiver that could be your number one, Tet McMillan, going to open up everybody else to eat. But I do agree with you. Like straight up, better pick at cost. It's the guy who was better as a rookie that goes 60 plus picks cheaper. And I don't think it's close.
When he got 70+% of the routes last year, he was a 14 plus PPR point per game receiver in half of those games.
How does he go in the 200s?
I don't know. I really don't. Because I do think that the Panthers like him too, and they want him to win reps. Because like Adam Thielen's still there, and he might be a pest for these two young guys right away. I don't think he'll be a pest over McMillan, but I do think that Legette and Coker will split time with Adam Thielen, and they might all be like 70% route rate guys as a result of it. But I think Coker's the cheapest one. I'll take Coker.
Yeah, no, pretty simple there. Again, I do like Legette. I do want to get some exposure to him. That height, that weight, that speed, that ability in the open field. It's like he is the perfect better in best ball guy. He's a guy I'll be taking stabs on in best ball. Now, we could talk about, are you taking stabs on Legette or Coker in a redraft management league? Probably fucking not. You probably got better options that range. Hey, if you're in the last round of your redraft managed league, you're probably better off just taking a handcuff running back and hoping for an injury, because the waiver wire is always flush with offense you can plug or options that you can plug in if you need to. But in best ball, I mean, I think both these guys got a weekly ceiling to be a wide receiver too any given week in fantasy.
Yeah, and I just generally believe in this offense. And to Legette's credit, he had a lot to figure out coming out of college. Like he was not ready to play a full-time role. That's why he shouldn't have been a first-round pick. He should have been a second-round pick. And this year, if we start hearing, oh, Legette's taking a huge step, looks like a different player. Like he's kind of QJ right now, where everyone was like, some people were excited about Legette last year. Not a whole lot of people, but some people were excited about Legette. But because he wasn't a great prospect, people are like, oh, we figured that was going to happen kind of thing. So QJ at least was a decent enough prospect that people were still kind of in on it. But both guys were raw players, and Legette taking a step forward shouldn't really shock anybody for a guy that probably wasn't ready to play a big time role. Like hell, even when they drafted him, Dave Canales said, we're going to see what he can handle, like all this kind of stuff. And it clearly wasn't, he wasn't ready for a whole route tree and be the number one.
And I agree. And it's funny because like him and Coleman feel like similar cases. Like in that aspect, obviously different circumstances, because I'm sure if there was no McMillan here, we would also see Legette's ADP be around where Coleman's is, because the expectation, of course, Coleman could be the wide receiver one for Josh Allen. Legette, unfortunately, he's never going to be the wide receiver one with McMillan there. But it is funny that like, oh, big X wide receiver. Like that's what the Bills just said with Coleman. And the Panthers actually had the wherewithal to say, hey, listen, like he's big, he's fast. Maybe his best spot isn't just playing predominant X. We actually did see them try to use them across the formation.
It's nice that all four of their top receivers can play X too, whether it's because I don't even think McMillan's best alignment is X receiver primarily. I think he can be moved around the formation. I think the fact that all of them, Coker included, and Thielen included too, can play at the X receiver spot means that you could even like really spread this offense out, go 3-4 wide, and let Bryce Young kind of run and shoot it.
Yeah. Hey, and I mean, especially like we just talked about, I mean, Hubbard and Dowdle obviously going to get their touches, but I do think we could see a rise in terms of the passing nature of this offense compared to even what we saw last year. Again, I still love Hubbard and Dowdle at their cost right now, but we saw them be like a mostly run-centric offense until Bryce figured it out, and then we saw a lot more plays left in Bryce's hands.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, he deserved it. He was literally a 20 point per game quarterback over the last like 7 games of the year because he played super, super well at the end of the season. Staying in the NFC South, and ironically, there was a couple of those games were against Tampa Bay because there was a couple of really good ones there. Jalen McMillan, great rookie season at the end of it, right? He had from week 14 onward, I think he had 7 touchdowns or something like that. Yeah. Like the dude was a beast in the red zone. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight top 24 weeks from week 14 onward, which is like insanely good best ball kind of league winner.
You know what he is?
Production.
I mentioned on the running backs video, oh shit, the implied upside of these elite handcuffs. Oh my God, Ray Davis, Trey Benson, and Isaac Garendo. Well, guess what? Jalen McMillan is that for wide receivers because Chris Godwin, he's already hurt. Mike Evans, older wide receiver. Emeka Egbuka, rookie wide receiver. Jalen McMillan should be the number 4, but if he was ever to be able to get an opportunity to work onto the field, and funny enough, like Godwin's like the injured one right now, McMillan's probably best suited to play the slot, especially knowing the words of encouragement we've heard from Baker, we've heard from Mike in regards to Emeka Egbuka's versatility and lining up on all spots. I feel like if Godwin were to miss time, like McMillan's going to play a lot of slot, and Emeka Egbuka's going to get shipped at the outside, right?
Yeah, and not to mention too, just like in a vacuum, in a median range of outcomes on any NFL team on any given season, how many combined games will your top 3 receivers miss on any given season combined? Like 8, 10 games?
Yeah, I mean, like it's tough to say. I guess the likelihood would be on any given game. What's the likelihood of a receiver getting hurt?
I'd say that the average receiver probably plays 14, 15 games a year, give or take.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Again, Evans been relatively durable most of his career, but especially when one of those guys is coming into the season already with an injury, another one of those guys is 32 years old. Like if I told you the Buccaneers wide receivers, one of their top 3 would be out for 9 games this year, Jalen McMillan has a chance to hit your lineup in 4 or 5 of those games. Legit. And he also will have, plays and reps and chances to get into your lineup, even if he's only running 40, 50% of the routes.
So I'm curious now because I do want to look back if I can find this. What was his ADP in the big board in the pre-NFL draft contest?
I think he was going in like the 90s or something like that.
I want to say it was even like the 80s. Like
yeah,
I
got a couple big board drafts in. Let me take a look.
Yeah, I got like the biggest board here. I can click top corner view.
He is a better in best ball guy for what it's worth. Like, would you be at all interested in a managed league in Jalen McMillan? Like, no. You're only like you would be if somebody went down, he'd be a high waiver priority target. Like if Godwin missed the first 4, like if he got put on the PUP list to start the season and it's week 2 or something like that, people would, rush to the waiver wire to go pick up Jalen McMillan. I think that he'd probably have value from that perspective, but that's kind of how you want to think about this. Like I've heard Pat Kerrane talk about this too, specifically in regards to Ricky Pearsall last year. The types of late round picks you want to take are guys who will end up being elite waiver pickups in managed formats. That because then you know when to start them and you know when their big weeks are coming and that kind of thing. So I think Jalen McMillan, there's a good chance that 2 or 3 times throughout this entire season, he ends up being one of the best waiver ads on the week.
Yeah, no, I would agree there. Ultimately, he's the type of guy where you're in a 6 or 7 bench redraft league and you can get him in the last round of your draft, literally as a wide receiver handcuff. And we typically don't say, hey, wide receiver handcuff is a thing because to put it simply, if you're good enough, you'll command volume. It's not like you can just put a shit player in there and he's going to get a 9 target type of game. But because we have evidence of him clicking in this offense, because we have evidence that this will be a good offense, irregardless of the injuries around him, you guys missed time at wide receiver in terms of injuries last year, still function as a good offense. So really having that tetherment of both the situation on top of knowing that he already fits like a glove with what you guys want to do if he does get that work, I mean, he'd be a weekly top 25 to 30 wide receiver at worst.
Yeah, dude, he was going in the 7th, 8th round in the pre-draft contest before they drafted Egbuka. He went off the board before Josh Downs went off the board in some of these drafts. Like, that's pretty insane, man. Like, I think the talent is there. He's buried right now. He's totally buried. From a dynasty perspective, he's definitely a good hold and he'll probably be fine long-term. But from a redraft and best ball standpoint, I think leaning into that ambiguity and the likelihood that, over under 8.5, 9 games that one of the top 3 Buccaneers wide receivers misses. And here's the other thing too. I expect Emeka Egbuka to beat him out to start the season and be a wide receiver 3 on this team, but it's not a guarantee. Weeks 1 to 3, weeks 1 to 5, what if Jalen McMillan's running more routes than Emeka Egbuka?
Yeah, no, that's a very real possibility. Although I do expect Igbuka to be that
Me
guy.
too.
There is still a possibility because McMillan was a good rookie. But I feel like these last guys, they all go outside of the top 200. So we kind of can just rattle them off in order. Adonai Mitchel, a guy that we both believed in. Again, his unfortunate nature is that he's just stuck behind a logjam at wide receiver and what's a shaky quarterback core. Regardless if it's Daniel Jones, if it's Anthony Richardson, not like you're going to be getting top 15 tetherment at the quarterback position in terms of play this year. So Adonai Mitchel, I think the talent is there. I think the separation is there. Just, man, catch point was a fucking nightmare this year.
Yeah, great ass. Adonai Mitchel. And for what you guys, might not know, what I'm referring to is his average separation score, according to Fantasy Points, was among the best in football at wide receiver. Him and Dontavian Wicks are doing the Spider-Man meme right now because they're both great separators, but can't do
both
shit.
Wide receiver 4s that can separate and do nothing else.
Yeah. I've got 16.3% Adonai Mitchel. I've been drafting him quite a bit because similar to J-Mac, I think he can have some big weeks because he's a 4-3-2 wide receiver who makes big plays happen. And both of his quarterbacks, one of them throws deep balls at will because he wants to, in Anthony Richardson, and the other one accurately throws deep balls when he decides to, in Daniel Jones. So I actually think that he could give you 3 to 4 good spike weeks. And again, similar to what I just said with J-Mac, over under 8.5, 9 games that one of the top 3 receivers for the Indianapolis Colts misses some combined games. And the other thing is too, it is possible he beats out Alec Pierce on the outside. It is possible. I don't think it's likely because I think Pierce is a decent player, plays a nice role. But if you get 10 games this year where Adonai Mitchel has more than 70% of the routes for the Colts, I think there's a good chance he returns big time on a 18th round ADP.
For sure. My guy that I've actually been doing that with, funny enough, is, it kind of just is a factor that in these rooms that I'm in, this particular quarterback always seems to fall even after he signed. But I've noticed that, hey, I'm not grabbing a ton of DK early, but Rodgers is always the quarterback, like I said, that falls. I have 12.5% Rodgers. I've been taking a lot of 18th round Roman Wilson, actually, simply because of the fact it's a wide open wide receiver core, and Aaron Rodgers will throw the ball deep. That is really the only thesis behind it. And I know Roman Wilson, hey, you could talk about he's a small wide receiver. You could talk about he's not great in contested situations. You could talk about the fact that his route running is overrated. But you know what he does? He can create some big plays. He is
pissed down his leg bad, in my opinion. Hey. But like you said, he might be pissed down his leg bad and a good enough offense or a good enough, role inside offense where he can actually create some big plays. I also don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. Some people comped him to a Tyler Lockett or something coming out of school. It's possible that he just beats out Calvin Austin or whatever, and he starts kind of generating some over the middle of the field looks. But this offense is just so unappealing to me that I don't want to draft anybody not named DK Metcalf.
Well, let me read you out. So obviously DK Metcalf is going to be the wide receiver 1 here, but outside of that, target competition that he has to usurp. You ready for it?
Go ahead.
Calvin Austin.
Gross.
Robert Woods.
Gross.
Scotty Miller.
Gross.
Ben Skowronek.
Ew.
These 3 names I have never heard of. You ready? Brandon Johnson.
Fake person.
Lance McCutcheon.
That's definitely a Madden created player.
Rock Taylor, ROC Taylor.
Oh, Rock Taylor is a running back. So
he's playing receiver now?
He's a Memphis running back, so they all play both.
Oh, that's all. That's the thing that they do. Yeah, fuck.
Anyways.
It just goes to show you, man, what are we dealing with here?
So I also don't mind Troy Franklin in 18th round best ball dart throw because A, I take a lot of Bo Nix. B, shower narrative. They played together in college. C, similar to Keon Coleman, similar to Xavier Legette. I expected him to have a bad rookie season because he was raw and really young and undersized and maybe needs to hit the weight room and that kind of thing. So pay attention to offseason buzz on Troy, because I'm not giving up yet. I'm gonna have a tiny little lamp open for Troy Franklin, because I'm not totally done yet. He could be a stone zero. I understand that, and his teammate Devon Vele might very well be the better pick, who's also a second-year wide receiver that you could say is a good 18th round dart throw. One of those Broncos wide receivers I like.
That's a trivia piece in like fucking 10 years. Is like who was the 27-year-old rookie who caught a touchdown in 2024 for the Broncos? Answer: Devon Vele.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's other guys here. I mean, Jermaine Burton might not even.
You can give up on him.
I don't even think he'll make the roster for Cincinnati unless like some dramatic shit happens here. A couple other guys that I think are sneaky good 18th round best ball dart throws. Malik Washington. No more Jonnu Smith. Maybe somebody's running those drag routes. I thought Malik Washington was a half decent prospect. Plug your nose maybe on this one. Luke McCaffrey. Maybe he gets some run with the Washington Commanders. They don't have a whole lot of wide receivers there. I mentioned Devon Vele as well. Jordan Whittington, not a terrible shout either as a second-year wide receiver. We know what those top two guys are going to do for the Rams, but Jordan Whittington was kind of a sneaky waiver ad at points during the year last year.
He had some usable weeks.
Yeah, he had some usable weeks. Wouldn't totally shock me if he became half decent. And then the other shouts that I liked were Jacob Cowing. If Jennings is going to hold out or whatever, Brandon Ayuk not on the field right away. I mean, Pearsall will be the only guy standing there. Jacob Cowing could be a half decent usable option in best ball. Probably a stone zero. I wouldn't really spend any picks until we hear some buzz about him. And then Tez Walker as well. Maybe.
I think Tez Walker is buried.
Tez Walker is buried behind, DeAndre Hopkins, Zay Flowers, and Rashad Bateman at the moment. But Bateman's been injury prone. Hopkins is old. Maybe. If you have a Lamar stack and you want to get unique, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, like at that rate, like I mean, if we're talking just like gross, but like maybe interesting. I mean, Johnny Wilson, I think pretty much a stranglehold on the wide receiver 3 role at this time for the Eagles. Obviously, the size profile. If anything happened to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, I would assume they'd probably just run the football like 45 times a game. But yeah, he'd actually figure into that because funny enough, he got a perfect run blocking grade from both of us. So maybe he just gets some snaps then. Maybe
he does. And speaking of good run blockers, it's crazy that we talked about at least 20 wide receivers from the 2024 wide receiver class, and not once did we mention Jalen Polk. So,
God,
that guy's cooked. That guy is absolutely fried.
Who would you rather bet on at this point, him or Javon Baker?
Neither. I'd rather bet on neither of them. They're both going to be zeros in best ball. I would say I would rather bet on Polk just given the draft capital, but it's not looking good for him.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm trying to even think like who else can we realistically mention from that class?
I think that's everybody. I think we covered literally every rookie receiver. Brendan Rice, still any truthers left?
Brendan Rice, Malachi Corley, I guess is semi-interesting.
I told people in late dynasty startups that Malachi Corley sneakily, also like Legette, also like Coleman, was not at all ready to play in the NFL. His rookie season, and it wouldn't totally shock me on a literal wide open day. It's the Roman Wilson bet. I might start weaving in a Malachi Corley 18th round scroll to F down to a Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson stack, because there's nobody on that depth chart, dude. Nobody.
Including Malachi Corley.
And he's probably most certainly a stone zero, but I do think he has the most upside of anyone not named Wilson on that depth chart at wide receiver.
He may be urine, but is it at least sterile?
Yeah, it's sterile urine. That's what Malachi Corley is at this point in time. But yeah, second-year wide receivers, lots of interesting names that we talked about. Of course, some very, very high-end fantasy assets at the top, some not-so-high-end fantasy assets for the last 15 minutes or so that we've been talking about. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. If you want to take advantage and draft some of these players on Underdog. Danny, which of the receivers that we talked about today do you think is the single best click on Underdog relative to their price tag? I will start with the easy answer, which is I just think Malik Nabers is the best click because I have him ranked higher than where he goes.
I mean, I think they're all like literally I'm looking through my notes here. They're all fine clicks. If you're talking about like actual consequential clicks, because I would just say the best click overall is Jalen Coker because it's like 18th round. What the fuck else are you going to get there? In terms of the best click at value, I do have Brian Thomas Jr. exactly ranked where he goes. I do technically have Malik a couple spots after. I also have Ladd actually exactly where he goes. So really, like, just give me any of those top wide receivers, any of them who fall to round 2, I'm going to be ecstatic about. But even as early as the 1-2 turn for BTJ and Malik Nabers, I'm comfortable getting my shares of.
Yeah, and the most clicked receiver from this video for me is Adonai Mitchel, in fact, and Jalen McMillan, the second most clicked wide receiver for me of this video. So those are some of our favorite clicks. Again, if you guys want to head on over to Underdog, use the promo code FSE. Got some great contests going on for beginners right now. So if you guys are new, mini schnauzer, 20 entry max, $3 entry, some pretty decent prize pool there. Puppy 2 going right now, a $5 entry, $100,000 up top for those of you guys that want to get in on that contest. And of course, the flagship Best Ball Mania 6, $2 million to first place, $25 to enter. A couple of mid-stakes ones going right now too. The Dalmatian, $101 entry, 3 entry max. So everything for every price point going on over on Underdog. If you guys want to sign up, use the code FSE. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. But with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.